This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I get it. We got big shoes to fill. Hans Olsen, we're going to take our time. And the name, it's not permanent. We're going to find somebody that's going to fill in those big size 15 shoes of Hans, and we're going to get it done. Until then, though, we're going to surround ourselves with a lot of good guests, a lot of great insight, because heaven knows I'm not bringing any of that. So with that, let's bring in the general manager of the Utah Mammoth, Bill Armstrong. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Can't complain at all. Hey, I wanted to, are you you ever watch Ted Lasso?
I've watched a few times. Yeah, it's pretty good.
So he's got the, the memory of a goldfish. And because goldfish have no memory, so you just got to, forget what happened and move on. I really, that game in Carolina, that could stick with teams if you're not careful. How are you able to kind of move on from a loss like that and get things back on track?
Well, sometimes those losses hurt, and they leave a scar to some degree, but that's not a bad thing. Sometimes you have to go through some pain during the course of the season, and it kind of like it builds some character in your guys, and that scar that you have, it ends up working out for you, because it's that time that one of your players doesn't really, he's maybe selfish, he wants to get a point, he doesn't get that puck deep at the proper time, and it turns around and costs you a game, and that player feels a little bit of the pain, maybe by a selfish penalty or something that he did that wasn't based upon the team agenda. And it kind of rips through the team, and it causes a lot of adversity. And coaches are upset, players are upset. And you have to go through some of that pain to really become a good team. They've got to learn lessons. It's not much different than your kids. Sometimes you got to get burned. And we got burned that game in Carolina and deeply hurt, I think, our group. But, when you look at it, in the big picture, it's going to come back and help us in the end. And, there was a team last year that went through this process where they gave up a lot of 6-on-5 goals, and it kind of stung them at the end of the year. It caught up in the seventh game of one of their first playoff series, and they ended up losing because of they never fixed those issues that had happened to them during the course of the year. And so it's so important that when you go and you get stung and you have a hard loss, you go back, and you kind of go through it, you learn from the pain and let that pain fuel you.
I had a basketball coach once tell me you're either winning or you're learning, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned from losing. Now, granted, you'd like to learn a lot from winning too, but yeah. Those are lessons that hopefully can pay dividends down the line, because that was a tough one. But you guys get the win against the Canucks 6-2 yesterday, and how about Schmaltzy with the hat trick?
Yeah, that was great. He came alive. He was awesome. So it was just one of those games for him. He's just hot, feeling it, and he was able to kind of drive us through. So he had a big game for us. And, I love the way that, certain aspects of our team are coming together, along with him, our first line, with Kells and Krauser. They're really a good kind of elite line. And, and then you get into Yamamoto and Hayden and Peterka. They're coming along too. So there's some really good aspects of our offense that everybody's generating, but Smoltzy's a huge part of that.
Marino got 3 points. That's a new career high in scoring. Obviously, he's important to your team defensively, but just kind of talk about him as an overall player and what he's meant to this team.
Well, Johnny's a huge piece. Like he's like you can't create offense unless your forwards get the puck in motion on the stick, and that's what he does. He moves the puck. And he's got elite hands. He's got poise and patience in those hands. He's got great vision, and he just sits back and he can just move. He can move the puck, and our forwards love playing with him just because of his ability and his vision to find the open guy in the neutral zone transition, and it allows our forwards to literally attack with speed, which is one of our assets. So he's certainly made strides from when we first got him to where he is now, and he hasn't even hit his peak, and he keeps getting better every game.
There's so much that go. We talk about the Jazz coaching staff and how well they've done in developing players like Keontae George, and he's taken that next step. I got to imagine that's something that's a high priority for you. Not only draft quality players, acquire them via trade and free agents, but also the development once they get there. How important is that to your staff, and do you feel like your guys have been delivering? Because it sure seems on the outside looking in that they sure have.
Yeah, I think it's something where when you come in at the start of the years, you put a lot of pressure on your guys to improve. And I always have this saying where I say to the veteran players, I'm like, don't get old, get better. And that's a lot of our culture about coming into the rink every day. And we're in a unique situation where there's not a lot of practice time because of the Olympics. So we play, day off, and it just goes in that pattern. And so when they come in for their game, instead of just doing like a normal warm-up where it's a 20-minute one, we add probably 15 minutes of skills, sharpening their passing, sharpening their shooting, difference. And we've hired coaches to get on there and just really work their skill sets. And you see it with our group. We continue to get better, not only the veterans, but the young guys. They keep taking strides. So that's part of our culture, is to come in and have that will to improve every single day.
Bill Armstrong joining us, general manager of the Utah Mammoth. I think I mentioned this to you. I remember Jerry Sloan, the former coach of the Jazz, who told his team going into All-Star break, don't get out of shape on me. And I remember thinking and back then the All-Star break was a lot shorter than it is now. And I'm thinking 3-4 days, can you really get out of shape? Well, you've got a long Olympic break. Are you worried about guys not just losing momentum emotionally with the hot streak you've been on for the most part, but also maybe taking a step backwards if they're not careful?
It's a huge concern. Anytime your team's off for that amount of time, it takes one day in hockey terms to get out of shape, So, it's a hard sport about cardio and just it's a different type of strength in your body, and you lose it extremely quick when you're not on the ice every day. So it's so important for our guys to not only go home and get to Mexico and get a few days to kind of relax and get, just rejuvenate everything and get away from the game. At the same time, don't get too far away from it and don't get too far out of shape. Spend some time on the bike, spend some time lifting some weights and keeping yourself ready to go. And last year, our group, was super prepared when they came back in from the break. We attacked it. We came back. We had a great, second half down the stretch. It was huge. Well, we're going to come back to about 25 games left on the schedule, and we've got to attack it. We've got to be ready to go in the best shape. We want to come out of the break in the most prepared team, ready to play for a playoff spot. So we got one more game to go. It's the most important game of the season against Detroit. It's going to be a battle. They're a heck of a team. But really, it's a huge game for us before we head into break.
Yeah, you talk about that game against Toronto. How important? And I know this is a silly question, but in carrying momentum into this break, I got to imagine it's really important to get a win and not let that sinking feeling of finishing off with a loss going into that break. I mean, just from a mental health standpoint, this is an important game going into that break.
Yeah, I think, the way that we look at this game, as coaches has always done a good job this year preparing our guys, but it's a game 7, it's do or die in this game. And we've got to have that mentality, that we give everything we have to get the win. You don't want to look back and just say, we're going into break. It's not a big game. And you let one slip away. We don't have the space for it. Our division. The wild card spot is so tight that, one loss can just put you out of it. And then you got to spend 17 to 20 days thinking about it.
And there's always that joke where in the NBA, they talk about they're all there physically, but mentally, a lot of guys are already in Cancun. And those are the teams that usually end up taking an L real quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's so tight. Every game is a must-win right now in the NHL. So for us, it's a huge game. We got to find a way to win it and stay in the hunt.
What do you think of Team USA's chances in the Olympics? It seems like they really doubled down on defense, especially goaltending, and you got the Canadians who are high-flying. Was that the right approach, or would you have rather maybe ramped up the offense a little bit more?
I think, when they went to the Four Nations, unbelievable hockey that they played, I think each team learned a little bit about their team and what they needed to add. So I think each team's kind of come back and made some adjustments. I think Team Canada got a little bit tougher. The U.S. have made some adjustments too in their game. to be a little bit better on the D side of the puck too. So it'll be interesting to see how it all works out in the end. And everybody's had some injuries here and there, but it's. I think Team USA, I got to be honest with you, I think they're the favorites, in my opinion. Going in, I think they're that good. That's how good they are. Yep.
So we had a guest on, a national writer, who wasn't really thrilled with the way that they approached the roster building, but you like what they've done.
Yeah, I do. You're never going to please everyone because everybody thinks, oh, we got to take all the best players. But listen, there's role players that have huge amount of impact. That nobody values really on the street value, but as a teammate and to block shots and to do the hard work and the grind and the drive the net, you got to have role players. They can't all be finesse Patrick Kane type players. So you certainly have to make sure that you build a team, and it's not build the best, it's build the best team. And sometimes the media don't like that when that type of building goes along because they're like, hey, you left out this guy, you left out that guy.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the management has to build a team, and that's what they do. And they had the Four Nations as a warm-up for it last year. So now going into the Olympics, they should have their best team, picked.
As long as the Kachucks start throwing fists 9 seconds into it, that's all I really want, or somebody like them, then I'm happy.
Well, it's always great when there's a little physical altercation, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And it's such a heated thing, and you're playing for your country, and it draws everybody to television to see the best on best, really. So it gets everybody excited about hockey. Then they get to come back and duke it out for the NHL playoffs.
How much can that experience help your guys that are playing in the Olympics?
Well, I think for sure, just being around other great players to see the way that they prepare, how they go through the adversity, how they handle it, sticking to the team plan. And sometimes the good news is that you might have the most offensive player on your team, but when he goes to play, for Team Canada or Team USA, they have to change their role. I think that's a huge importance because then when they come back to your team, they're like, oh, okay, I've learned how to play a little bit more defense in this situation, or hey, I had to play this role on the team, and they get a better understanding of it. They're the top dog here. They might not be the top dog, Team USA or Team Canada.
Saw Tej, the WHL Player of the Week, had a 6-point night the other night. How's his progression? Because it sure seems like he's putting some points up in that league.
Yeah, Tej has been unreal. He has just simply crushed it since he's gone back to his junior club in Kelowna, and it's just been a real great thing. He was banged up last year, went through a number of different surgeries and was out the whole year, and he's come back just absolutely flying. And you love to see that. The kid's an all hockey kid. He's all in all day long. All he wants to do is play for the Mammoth. So he's someone that when you draft, you thought he was good, and now you see him later and you're like, wow, he's really good. So he's going to have a chance to have impact at some point in time to come in for us in the next few years.
Love it. Well, Bill, we appreciate it. Thanks for your time. As always, looking forward to catching up with you next week, and hopefully you get a day or two to yourself to relax a bit. I doubt that'll happen, but, hopefully you can squeeze in some time.
Yeah. Hopefully there's a couple days.
There you go. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Take care.
There he is, Bill Armstrong, general manager of the Utah Mammoth. And I always thought that was funny because I remember distinctly, and we talk about Jerry Sloan a lot, and man, miss that guy. But I remember at a shoot-around talking to him and when he was addressing the media before an All-Star break, and he was very adamant about how guys can get out of shape. And the All-Star break then was a lot shorter than it is now. And I just thought, really? Like, you're talking about the most finely tuned athletes on the planet. There's no way they can really regress that much physically. Now, granted, keep in mind, look, you guys have all known my journey. I'm not the most physically fit person, never have been. So, I'm not of that level. So I'm just going off my own thought. Like, can you really get out of shape in 3 or 4 days? You've got the general manager of the Utah Mammoth saying that you can get out of hockey shape in 1 day if you're not careful. So I thought that's fascinating. And with a massive layoff coming off for the Olympics, it would be very easy for a player to be like, you know what, I'm just going to spend a couple days on the couch and I'm going to eat some good food and I'm going to catch up on my Netflix binging. And
one cheat day.
Yeah, what's a cheat day?
What's a cheat day? Come on.
And then look, we all know this. A cheat day turns into a cheat weekend, and then a cheat weekend turns into maybe a cheat week, and then you're like, oh, I got to buckle down. I got to get myself back into it. These Olympics are starting to wind down. And so then you get fired up and you realize, ooh, I don't have that same kind of step that I had. And by the way, these trainers, these coaches, they will know immediately. They will know immediately where you're at. So, and this is a team that's got so much to play for. 25 games left after the game against Detroit. So they know that they are right in the thick of things for the playoffs. And if you go backwards, you're not only doing yourself a disservice, you're doing your team a disservice because they're playing so well. I know they lost 2 in a row before that win against the Canucks, but this is a team that's got to be firing on all cylinders if they want to make that playoff push. And I hope they do because, frankly, we've been talking about this for a long time, Lloyd. We deserve some playoff hockey. We want playoff hockey. We need playoff hockey. Let's make it happen.
Oh, I would kill. Okay, I wouldn't kill for playoff hockey, but give me some playoff hockey. I mean, that Carolina game, and I liked it. I loved his answer on that.
Yeah.
Like, it's good to have scars like that, but I'm telling you, like, we've talked about how delicate the mindset is of the goalie.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, giving up 3 goals in 2 minutes has got to be. But you know what? It seemed like he bounced back. Vejmelka bounced back. And
were you watching that live when it happened?
Yes, I did. See, and I was like, there's no way.
I went back. I knew what had happened, and I went back and watched it on a replay. And I was, I'm still watching it, knowing what happened, knowing how it played out. And I still was like, there's no way. I must have read that wrong on Twitter. There's no way this happened. Because as you're watching it, even knowing what happened, you're like, I can't envision a situation where they give up 3 goals here. But
to be up 4-2 and not even get a point, where I'm really starting to understand that points are at a premium.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I mean, you know, the way that the whole point system works versus, like, say, the record with the NBA, like, you lose, but a team that's behind you, or ahead of you, whatever, loses, and all of a sudden you gain a half game. But the points don't change. If you're off and they're off, there's no point change. It's all about how important 1 point or 2 points is. Like, it's crazy, and it's. I mean, you look at, like, how St. Louis went on that run last year of 11-game win streak or whatever, 12, 13-game win streak, and that's how they jumped out to that big lead, and there was, like, the Mammoth could never catch them.
No.
And, and right there, you keep an eye out, and there's Utah in that, in that one spot as far as the wild card. Like, they're the one wild card right now. But they keep shifting. Like, they lose 1 game, and all of a sudden they slip down to the 2, and they go back up to the 1. And watch them, like, they're hanging on by a thread right now. And this is fascinating to watch come down the stretch.
I remember last year, Jay Stevens sitting in that chair right there, and the Mammoth were out of it by, I want to say, like 6 points, 5 or 6 points. And I look at that as, because you're right, you think of it like games standpoint. And so you can pick up games real quickly in the NBA. And we thought, and there was still like a good chunk of time left. And I asked him, like, how easily can that be overcome? He's like, it ain't going to happen. Like, you're not.
6 points is a lot.
And at the time I was thinking, oh, come on, 6 points. They can do that. That's not a big deal. You get on a heater, you'll be fine. And he's like, no, that's the point of no return. We're past that.
An overtime loss, they get a point. It's like you're really trying. You're playing catch up is not easy in the NHL.
So when you look at the landscape of this season right now, and when you're looking at points being a premium, being up 4-2 with 2 minutes left. Even as you mentioned, all right, you give up 2 goals, you lose a game in overtime. All right, you're still walking out of there with a point. It sucks, but you got a point. Walking out of that with 0, and especially after you got in the win.
Well, the thing is, it changed. Like, had they just lost that game, just lost it. I'm not talking about you just lose. It's like, okay, that was going to happen.
3-1, you lose.
You figured that was going to happen.
Yeah.
You got 4 points on that road trip with a win against Florida and a win against Nashville. Like. The 4 points really was a success, but to not get those 2 points when you had it 4-2, I think it was pretty wild to see, because you're like, all of a sudden that road trip really turned into a miss. It felt like a miss, even though it still was a win, but it didn't feel like it mentally or, in the long run, because those 2 points were valuable.
And frankly, I think there was a little bit of hangover in that Dallas game.
Right, absolutely.
And you reverse course, you get the win, and by the way, Smalty with the hat trick.
You did what you needed to do, by the way, against Vancouver. Vancouver is not good.
No.
They're not good. You did what you needed to. They put the pressure on them. They kept the pressure on them all game, and so that was good to see. You did exactly. No hangover. They recovered, and it was good to see them do that.
All right. We are going to chat with the great Tony Jones. He's going to join us coming up in about 7 minutes from right now. So TJ will join the show. He may not be on the Jazz beat anymore, but that guy's dialed into all things Utah Jazz basketball. So we'll get his thoughts on the trade that went down earlier, in fact, about a half hour before we hopped on the show, a franchise-altering trade in terms of the Jazz and what they're looking to accomplish as Jaren Jackson Jr. on his way to suit up for the Jazz. And this is a moment when you talk about the rebuild process, this is the moment that you look at and you're going to point to and say, that is when the tanking stopped. Now, granted, they're going to tank the rest of the year. They need to get that pick, but this is the light that you've been waiting for. It's not the all-in superstar, but it is a sign of the Utah Jazz willing to give up significant assets to bring in a player who can be part of a big three. Maybe not the one in a big three, but certainly part of your big three. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're listening to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, welcome on back. Scotty G and Friends. Okay, it's not going to stick. That's not the name. I know it sounds a little narcissistic. That's not what we're going to call it long term. We're just, we're bringing in a bunch of people, good friends of the show. We're going to hang out. We're going to chat it a little bit, and then we'll figure out who our co-host is going to be going forward. All right, before we get to the great Tony Jones from The Athletic, remember this segment brought to you by University of Utah Health, for you, for life. Let's give away some Jazz tickets, though. Not sure if Jaren Jackson will be in the lineup, but hey, could be. So here it is, your chance to win tickets.
It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday, and your chance to win tickets is right now.
Call this number now.
Call this number now.
Be caller number 12 at 801-575-ZONE. 801-575-ZONE. And you'll be on your way to Delta Center to see the Utah Jazz.
He fires the three. Hey, hands up! Don't do me like that.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, it's Jazz Ticket Tuesday, 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE. You'll win a pair of tickets, see the Jazz and the Kings coming up on Wednesday, February 11th at the Delta Center, 7 o'clock tip-off. All right, Tony Jones from The Athletic will join us coming up here in just a moment. We'll chat with him and get his thoughts on the Jazz trade right here on the Zone. In fact, he joins us right now. Tony, I'm not thrilled with you right now. You're not my favorite person out there. Because
this is just not the introduction that I anticipated. But
no, look, Tony's one of my favorite. In fact, Tony is so much on my favorite list. You couldn't have waited like 6 months for my guy Hans to figure out he needed to go into the corporate world and make some real money. Like our timing, man, you would have been perfect. This would have been great. But that's all right. You moved across the country. You're in Philly. I get it. It's fine. But I'm telling you, man, what could have been?
I would have accepted. Like absolutely.
Oh man.
Listen, let's tell the whole story here. Me and you have actually, I'm hoping I'm not betraying any trust here, but me and you have been talking about this for like 3 or 4 years.
Yes. You are made for sports radio. You are made for sports radio. You argue with everybody. You get in fights at the drop of a hat. You're ready to throw gloves at any given moment. And come on, I couldn't have created a profession that you're more capable of. Now, granted, you're a hell of a writer, and you do a great job on The Athletic. If you're not subscribed to The Athletic, get there now because Tony's the best of the best. He's won the guy lives in Philly, and he's still winning Sports Writer of the Year awards here in Utah. So for crying out loud.
Yeah, I lost that. Jay Drew. Shout out Jay Drew. Jay Drew beat me this year.
Yeah, well.
And shout out Bella.
Yeah, Bella, absolutely. But all right, so enough of that. I would love to have you on the air breaking down what you think of the Jazz trade as a co-host, but as a guest on the show, 30,000-foot view, what do you think? Did Jazz nail this one?
I loved it. I loved it. I mean, I love the trade from the standpoint of, size still wins in basketball. And, you're going to have, two guys in Lauri Markkanen and Jaren Jackson Jr., who are both 7-footers, legit 7-footers, who can shoot the basketball and handle the basketball. You're talking about one guy who's, pretty much a 22-point points per game guy, and who was a past Defensive Player of the Year. He's one of the best rim protectors in the league. And you're talking about another guy who can roll out of bed and get you 27, 28 points a night, 40% shooting on, 7 to 8 3-pointers a night. Plus he plays above the rim. You're talking about the length, the athleticism, the shooting, the creation ability of both guys. And then you're adding Walker Kessler, who's an apex rebounder and who's one of the 5 best rim protectors in the league, who has also started shooting the ball pretty well from 3-point range. So, it has a chance to be a terrific and dynamic front court. The Jazz still have some work to do, right? Like they have to find some more ball handlers, especially on the perimeter. They have to find some point of attack defenders. From that standpoint, I really do like them getting Vince Williams in this deal because he's one of the better point of attack defenders among guards in the league. They're going to have to downshift Ace Bailey, so in order to make this lineup work. So he's going to have to play at the 2, which means he's going to have to really get in the lab this summer and improve his ball handling. And it puts a lot of creation pressure on Keontae George as well. But, one of the things that this move does, it puts 2 rim protectors behind Keontae George. Defense is never going to be his thing. So, you need to have some protection for, behind him in order to kind of make some of the stuff work that he does offensively. But I firmly think the Jazz, if they, handle the offseason right, make enough moves around the edge of the roster, you're looking at a team that is going to have every chance to finish in the top 6 of the Western Conference next year.
So my initial thought was when I saw this trade go down was that if there's somebody on the Jazz roster that's a little nervous before the deadline, it might be Walker Kessler. You've reported that the Jazz are still very much committed to the long-term development of Walker Kessler. I know they've got some decisions to make contract-wise with him, but kind of, line up what this means for Walker, not just short-term but long-term.
Well, the first thing I can tell you is that Walker has a lot of interest on the market. There are 2 teams that I know of who are offering multiple first-round picks for him.
Wow.
And the Jazz are saying no. Both of these teams are in the Eastern Conference. I'm not going to, kind of betray the source and tell you who the teams are, but both of these teams are in the East. Both of these teams are offering multiple first-round picks to try to pry Walker Kessler loose. It's been well documented that the Lakers are very interested in Kessler. But essentially Austin Ainge is telling the entire NBA, you can go ahead and offer Walker Kessler a contract if you want to during the summer. I'm just going to wait until the last possible minute. I'm going to tie up your cap space for 2 days, and then I'm going to match the offer. So I don't know if that's going to scare anybody from giving him an offer sheet, but the Jazz are committed to having him on the team long term. And truthfully, they need him. You can't. The biggest weakness, Jaren Jackson Jr. has 3 very big weaknesses. Number one, he's not the most durable guy on the face of the earth. He never has been. He probably never will be. Secondly, he fouls way too much. I mean, way too much. It's almost a running joke how much he fouls. But the third thing, and this is why you need Walker Kessler next to him, is he is by far, and I'm saying by far, the worst rebounding big man I have ever seen in my life. I mean, the next rebound that Jaren Jackson Jr. gets will be his first. Now, that's not literal, but that's, that's, you get the point. Now he balances this by being, just an awesome rim protector, and he's a terrific offensive player, and, he's kind of a unicorn. You just don't see very many 7-footers who are natural power forwards, who move the way he does, who can score the way he does, and score in so many different ways, but there are weaknesses. So you need an apex rebounder next to him, and that's Walker Kessler. And when you put Walker Kessler's rim protection next to Jaren Jackson Jr.'s rim protection, you probably have 2 of the 10 best rim protectors in the league in the same lineup. So if you're the Jazz, I mean, that, there's some really scary good elements to that pairing.
I'm asking you to speculate. I'm not holding you to this, but ballpark, what do you think the financial contract, I guess, what kind of money are we looking at for Kessler going into next year?
I think the Jazz would love to keep him at around $25 million a year. I think Kessler's people want to get him up to $30 million a year.
Yeah.
Maybe even $32 million a year. So, and I see where both sides are coming from. Walker Kessler is, every bit of 7'1". He's just an absolutely terrific rim protector. He's a terrific athlete. There aren't many centers who run the floor as well as he does. He's, a really good lob threat. He's starting to shoot the ball. Before the shoulder injury, he started to shoot the ball, and he's become one of the best rebounders in the league. So, if you're, Walker Kessler's people, you're like, yo, this is worth a lot of money. And if you're the Jazz, you're like, I don't want to pay my center $33 million a year. It's one of the big reasons why they traded Rudy Gobert. They didn't want to pay him $45 million. So, it's going to be really interesting to see where that negotiation turns out. But, you're the Jazz. You have team control over him. So, it's going to be, if you're the Jazz, you're going to be trying to sign him for, somewhere, 4 years, 4 years, 5 years, and see where that goes, and $25 million a year.
Ben Anderson and I were talking about this, and he mentioned that, Laurie may have preferred to be at the 4, but because of this, as you mentioned, especially with Kessler, you're looking at him at the 3. Does that matter to you at all? Would you have preferred to keep him in the 4 in the perfect world, or is that kind of, doesn't overall matter that much?
No, it doesn't matter. I thought it would have mattered a little bit more 3 years ago, but he's developed a lot off the dribble since then, and he's figured out how to get his shot off against smaller and faster defenders. That was a problem for him a little bit when he came to the Jazz, and so you could see the difference between where he played 3 and where he played the 4. But I think it's much less of an issue now. No matter where you play him on the floor right now, he's going to score 28 to 30 points a night, and he's probably going to do it efficiently. And the other thing that's not a problem for me is that, I mean, you're starting with these guys. You're going to stagger those guys, as the game goes on. So, Lowry's going to start at the 3, but he's going to get his minutes at the 4. Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to start at the 4. He's going to get his minutes at the 5. Walker's strictly a 5. He's still going to play, his 30 minutes a night. So, it's just going to be all about, where Will Hardy, finds his rotations, where the sweet spots are, with his rotations and just kind of who best plays with what and, and frankly, what the roster looks like when training camp starts in September, because it's probably going to look different than what it is now.
Is Keontae near his ceiling, or is there still a ton of room for growth for him?
Well, he's 22 years old, so, I think that there's room for growth. And, I don't think that we see, somebody go from, what he was last year to what he was this year what he is this year very often. That's kind of a really unique leap for a player to take. But, he's definitely got a chance to get better. And, one of the reasons why he took this leap is that, last year he was in the gym every single day during the summer. He didn't take a day off. So, if he, continues like with that trajectory, and if he continues with that kind of dedication to working and honing his craft, he's definitely got room to grow.
You see any movement with Ja or Giannis before trade deadline, or does that go into the summer?
The Minnesota Timberwolves are trying really hard to get Giannis. That's one of the reasons why they made a move today to duck below the luxury tax and free up some money. So if Giannis isn't moved by Thursday, it's not going to be because teams aren't trying. So there's that, and the job thing is really interesting because now you've traded Desmond Bane and you traded Jaren Jackson Jr. I've seen better leaders among 2-year-olds than Ja Morant.
Man, this is why you needed to do sports radio. Damn it, Tony.
I'm just saying, Ja is not the greatest leader. Okay, so you're Memphis. You have just taken away Jaren Jackson Jr. and you have taken away Desmond Bane. You have just Ja Morant you've taken away Jock Landale, who's also an adult in the room, and you've also taken away Vince Williams, who Ja doesn't like very much. But let's be that as it may. Do you want your rookies and your second-year players to have Ja Morant leading you?
I think he would like to take a shot at that. Hey-oh, sorry.
Okay. That was wow. So
Need you here keeping him straight, Tony.
So I would just say I would have him out of Memphis with a bullet.
Well, I don't know how much trade power Memphis could brandish these days, but it would be interesting to see what they could come up with.
So disappointed in both of you.
Who knew Lloyd was the adult in the room here?
Watch Ja Morant in the new movie Tombstone.
He's your Huckleberry. Oh man, what could have been, Tony? What could have been?
What could have been?
Yeah. All right, my guy. Well, I appreciate it. Great stuff as always. You're killing it, and I'm always a big fan of yours. Don't be a stranger, and let's get you on more often. All right.
I love you guys very much, man, and I miss you. I miss you so much. So I really appreciate y'all.
All right, you're the best, dude. Miss you too. There he is, Tony Jones for The Athletic, now living in Philadelphia. Could have been doing sports radio with us. Hey, by the way, win big this Wednesday. It's the Win Ticket Wednesday. This week, you have a chance to see Brian Regan at Delta Center coming up on Saturday, February 14th. Get your tickets now at SeatGeek.com. All your tickets are available at, again, SeatGeek.com, and we're giving away tickets all day tomorrow as well. It's a Win Ticket Wednesday. Keep listening for the sounder and your chance to win. We'll wrap this bad boy up next right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.